Hey, what up, boxing fans? This is the Rope a Dope Radio Podcast. I am your host, Chris Carlson. Hope everybody's having a good hump day. I know I am. That's for sure. We are live here on a Wednesday, per usual. 6 on the West, 9 on the East, and 2 UK time. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Hopefully, my switchboard issues are over. I actually um, just was in contact with the help center, making sure everything was going to go smoothly tonight. So hopefully that stuff gets figured out. Either way, CT, we can get you in with the phone earlier if for whatever reason it ends up not working again. But anyway, since we're live, everything seems to be lovely. Let's get into this show. We got a lot to talk about. A whole lot to talk about. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. No, I'm sorry. That was an old school line. For those who are a little bit more old schooler, they remember that commercial. But no, the best part of the Mayweather McGregor, at least likely the best part, is going on right now. It's going on right now. And it is the press tour. And it's pretty damn funny. I got to admit, it's pretty damn entertaining. We're getting a little pretty boy Floyd instead of Money Mayweather, who had that combination thing. Pretty boy Floyd, especially right around Oscar De La Hoya fight, just went in. And that's what we're getting. You could see Floyd kind of sit there and simmer, so to speak, while McGregor went first. It was kind of funny to watch all the people online going, "Who the hell is this guy? Who the hell is this guy? Who the hell is that guy?" When they're talking about MGM uh, executives and of course Steven Espinoza and everything. Boxing, although it's not necessarily a classier sport per se, right? But it is a little bit more classier at the press conference at the start of them anyway, as we've seen plenty of melees go wrong. Larry Holmes dropping an elbow, jumping off a car comes to light. But anyway, we are going to mention that stuff. We're not going to go too deep into it. We will start the show with some recap. Just a couple of items. Nothing too crazy. We did have a big upset. We had two upsets. One of them was really big, kind of went under the radar because not a lot of people necessarily know the smaller weight guys. But we also had a fight in the UK that turned out to be pretty much a minor upset at least, but it was, I'd say, really one-sided, and that's the Josh Taylor O'Hara Davis fight. So we'll start with recap when it comes to that, but we got plenty to talk about. That's for damn sure. News oriented, yeah. Like I said, we'll talk Mayweather McGregor a little bit. We'll talk about Manny Pacquiao and Freddie Roach, and how they're still looking to get paid, which is pretty nice if you got paid for getting hit in the face. Um, and we'll also talk about, speaking of getting paid, the IRS is trying to get paid from Floyd Mayweather. So we'll talk about some of that stuff. We'll also cover, some current fight news and whatnot. So we'll definitely cover some news items, right? Won't be as much rumor mill items. It'll be more fight news and matter of fact news. But then we got to get into this weekend. Mild weekend, slow weekend from last weekend, sure, but not this weekend, man. Not this weekend. A good chunk of the rest of July is pretty damn good. It ends with a bang with Garcia and Broner. I'm really looking forward to that fight for a couple of different reasons. But we got some fights, man. We got the PBC on Fox and HBO Boxing having a triple header. Both of them having a triple header, and I got to say, it's really, really nice to see a triple header continually happening. I shouldn't say continually, but they've been happening a lot more frequently this year on HBO. Ever since Showtime last year put the pressure back on them, now with Top Rank moving their stuff off HBO and going to ESPN, um, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. HBO actually has a triple header, and they've had. Is this their third triple? Hold on, I might be getting ahead of myself. Maybe this is only their second triple header. Maybe I'm wrong there. But either way, they're going to have 3 this year. We know that because they already have a really good one. In fact, one that potentially could be the best triple header in the States here, September 9th. So we're going to talk about both of them. We're going to give them both time. We're not just going to focus on one and shit on the other like a lot of people, will do. Of course, the PBC, the Al Heyman card will get destroyed to an extent because of the main event, which I understand people's take on that to an extent. I do. I definitely do, because they think, what's that doing in the main event slot? So we're going to talk a variety of stuff. Obviously, I'd say the biggest, for me anyway, the biggest fight, the hardest fight to call, in my opinion as well, is the Joe Smith Jr. versus Sullivan Barrera. That's my favorite fight of the weekend. I almost said of the year. I was a little distracted there. I'm okay now, though. Joe Smith Jr., a guy who's hot, right? About a year ago. Sorry. Schmurder. For those who know. About a week ago, about a year and a month ago, a year and some change ago, Fonfara actually hurt Joe Smith early in the fight. He got lazy, he got loopy, going for the knockout, and Joe Smith Jr. put him on you-know-what street. He had him wobbling. It could have already been stopped, really. If you look at how Fonfara was walking, and then got held. It had to be held up by the ropes. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. He got the job done, though, and then he knocked the first ballot Hall of Famer out of the ring. So Joe Smith Jr. has been on a tear recently, and Sullivan Barrera, we saw him last year against Ward. Probably win a round or two. Maybe, I don't know, what'd you have it? 9-3, 10-2? I don't know. But he got knocked down in that fight. He's bounced back, though, Barrera has. And this is a big fight for 175 for the next generation at 175. It's a big fight. So I think, personally, Joe Smith Jr. versus Sullivan Barrera is my favorite fight, because it's hard to pick. It could be a brawl. Barrera could slow the pace down. It could be a variety of things. And then the rest of the fights, whether it be Figueroa against Figueroa against Guerrero, which stylistically is a fun fight, even though a lot of people are wondering what it's doing in the main event. The TV people will probably tell you, what it's doing there. But I understand that. Spilka against, I think it's Kovnacki, heavyweight fight that could produce some real fun action. Brown and Monahan, that's an interesting matchup. These guys have been sparring each other for quite some time. They're friends. This is another light. I mean, there's 2 light heavyweight fights that are like the next level for the winner. Burchelt, Mira. I mean, stylistically, that thing has fireworks written all over it. So there are plenty of fights, and I didn't even cover every one of them there, but we're going to talk each and every one. There is a show box that's kind of flying under the radar as well. I should put that out there. There is a show box out there. Well, it's not out there. It's not like it's someplace else in the world, but it's going on. And that is Friday. And with the Showbox, the guy in the main event is really interesting. But it's a Showbox, so it's worth watching regardless, right? That's one of those things that a lot of people enjoy on the hardcore level. We get to see a lot of these guys take on maybe their, hardest test or improve off of their hardest tests, off a loss or whatever. You get prospect against prospect, one loss against one loss. It's Showbox. And it's something that I think the entity of Showbox, the next generation, I think, although the ratings tell you that it's more hardcore, and it gets a lot of respect as a separate entity, but I don't think Showtime gets enough respect for having that ongoing. Like you could say, oh, they beat HBO this year, but that layer underneath of what they've done on Championship Boxing to have a Showbox going too, that's pretty big. So that's going to come too. So we're going to break it all down. Like I said, we're going to start with news and notes and a little bit of recap. To begin with, I see CT got on the line, which is always good. Thank God we got him through this week. Actually, right before the show started, well, maybe not right before, but a little before the show started, I contacted some people at the help center and told them, hey, I'm having some problems here the last 2 weeks, and I really hope that we're going to be good this week. And it looks like we're good to go there. So, obviously, Blog Talk, a very busy podcast website, so it has its ups and downs. It's just like boxing, right? So as far as recap goes, there's two things that I'm going to focus on. One is Moises Fuentes getting upset by Lara. What is it? Let me see real quick. Ulysses. I think it's Ulysses. This is flyweight. The scores read 97-94, 97-93, and 95-95. Fuentes, a very solid guy, though. This was a big upset. Big upset. This was from Mexico City. And Lara, man, he really pulled off an upset. I only saw chunks of it, didn't see the whole fight. The recorded stream that I saw was just not that good, to be honest with you. So it's kind of like, well, this is kind of worthless. So I actually just watched a couple of different highlights on the fight itself. So I wasn't able to really watch the full fight. The other one is Josh Taylor versus O'Hara Davies. And I'll say this. We were just talking about Showbox, right? Well, over in the UK, they do a pretty good job. Maybe it actually is detrimental to some guys. But they do a pretty good job of matching prospects against prospects over there, even if both of them potentially can have a name. Now, I know O'Hara doesn't have like the pedigree, the amateur pedigree. I think he had like 20 or 30 amateur fights compared to a guy that went to the Olympics and Josh Taylor. I believe he won a medal at the World Games. I think it was like a bronze. Before the Olympics. So, but the fact is they do put their guys in against other prospects that kind of have some hype behind them. Here's an example. George Groves and James DeGale. They fought probably a year or two too early, in my opinion. Now, both of them have bounced back. It took them a little bit to get back to getting an actual title. George Groves actually just got not his first title shot, but his first title win just a little bit ago. So we got 9-0 against 15-0, and both of them have good backing. I guess that's what I mean too. When you have high-level backing, there's a good chance that you're not going to be putting a real fight, or even a fight that could be built and be bigger until a little bit further down. That's just how boxing goes generally. But I have seen that. I'm not saying they do that all the time, but a guy that's 9-0 and 15-0, You probably wouldn't see that here if they both have a chance to develop into something. You know what I mean? So kudos to the UK for doing that. And, hopefully they bounce back. Now, well, both of them, I suppose, but Davies in this situation, he was stopped in the 7th round, and there was lots and lots of trash talk going on prior to this event. That's for sure. And O'Hara actually approached Mayweather not long ago when he was there in May for his fighter, Gervonta Davis, because remember he took on, who was it, Liam Walsh over there in the UK, and he approached Mayweather saying, give me your guy. Even though he's at 140, he's calling out Gervonta Davis, he's calling out anybody he can get. And that's cool. You got to go get yours. The old saying, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? You got to do what you got to do. I'm not going to rip a guy for talking smack, but there's levels to shit talking, obviously. And you have to you got to play your role. You got to stay in your lane when it comes to trash talking. You can't be like Amir Khan. Amir Khan is like us on YouTube right when the fight's done. Just people trolling. You know what I mean? He's just sitting there. He's got his whole, he's got his whole Twitter stuff figured out. He's got his message that he's going to send out. And he's just sitting there with that enter button, that send key, just waiting for the fight to be done. And bam, he's online. You know what I mean? That's just his style. He talks some stuff where you're like, dude, you're not on the planet with this thing. So for me, it's all about the level in which you talk your trash. And obviously Davies, his level of trash talk didn't come up with his level of skill. And what else you want to say? We can sit there and say, oh, he quit. Well, I mean, he did. He did quit. Now, it's just a matter of what you're going to, what other words are you going to use and how are you going to describe him after? I mean, he quit. He definitely quit. But it just, like I said, it matters how you view that. And it matters how much of a hard ass you are and a keyboard warrior and, how detailed you're going to get when it comes to that. But let's break this down, okay? Because it is kind of, you're going to get a bunch of trash coming back your way. You're going to get a bunch of shit talking your way. If you shit talk and then get knocked out, guess what? That's just too bad, Oh, well, that's how it goes. You can't be a dick to somebody and then act like, it's like for thousands of years, and I know this is off pace, but it's just an example. For thousands of years, men have abused women, right? We've treated them like shit. We all know the stories. It's not about stories, the fact. And now in the last 30, 40 years, tops, you got dudes already pissed that certain things happen with women like gold diggers. Like, oh, you shouldn't just get half my money. Well, I hear you, but you're not going to go a couple of thousand years and then not have something come back at you. It's a cause and effect is what I'm saying. So all the people that talk trash back to O'Hara, I'm sorry, O'Hara, you had it coming. You can't approach Floyd. I'm not saying he approached him to fight him, but you can't approach him talking some shit about his fighters or whatever and talking big boy mansion stuff. I had to throw big boy mansion in there if I'd mentioned Mayweather, obviously. And then not expect some shit to come back at you. Anyway, let's get into this fight that started slow. The first couple of minutes, real slow. You saw Davies throw a jab. There was some decent action a little bit in the last minute or so. A few clean lands, I thought, probably did it for Taylor, but that's one you could maybe just be in between on. Maybe gave it to Davis. I gave Taylor. There's not many rounds that I didn't give to Taylor, to be honest with you. In the second, he was flicking his jab. He did land a few right hooks that were pretty telling. And in the third round, he knocked him down. Davies, though, did get a nice little early start in that round. But then his jab kept going. He was doing more than flicking it. A few nice uppercuts and hooks, but it was a body shot that hurt Davies. Definitely hurt him. It's probably like the last 2 to 3 seconds or something of the round. There was a knockdown. And it was a jab. It was a jab that knocked him down. We see that every once in a while. Kovalev, Golovkin, Pavlik, Brandon Rios. These are a couple of guys that have scored knockdowns off their jab, the power jab as well. And this wasn't even that. I think it just caught him perfect. You know what I mean? I think that was one. So that's a 10-8 round. Fourth round, just digging to the body. I'm talking about Taylor was digging to the body. Down the stretch, though, there was some really good two-way action. I just thought, the harder shots were Taylor. Fifth round, I did give it to Taylor, but I had a question mark near it. More body work and some overhand rights by Davies. He started to show a little bit more life. Last minute, though, it was starting to get action-packed. But Davies got hurt again in that last minute. Body work was kind of the difference at the end of that round. So I gave it to Taylor, even though Davies was doing pretty good in the round. And I did give the sixth to Davies. I thought he had, once again, a really good early start in the round, but then he closed stronger too. Now, in between, and especially maybe the last, 60 or 70 seconds. I didn't say 67 seconds, by the way. I meant 60 or 70. I wouldn't do that to you. He rallied, though, Taylor. He made it a competitive round, no doubt about it. But I gave the sixth round to Davies. Early on in the seventh, the round that the fight stopped in, the busier fighter, the guy putting on the pressure was Davies. But Taylor turned the momentum around, and he landed a right hook that scored the knockdown right on the nose. Talking right on the nose. Tip of the nose. And that was basically going to be it. That was it. I mean, that was it. Taylor got the job done. He looked really good. I thought. And actually, I'm just making sure that, we're all good tonight. God, that's refreshing. It's just funny how you can go back-to-back weeks with issues with the switchboard, and then it'll be like a month or two and nothing, So that's about it. That was a very good win by Josh Taylor. He looked pretty damn good. And Davies back to the drawing board. Like I said, though, I'm not huge on him. I'll just admit it. I'm really not that big on Davies. It's not because he lost here. I didn't think a ton of him before. I thought he was kind of out punting his coverage, so to speak. I did think he was talking a little bit too much, where it was like, well, calm down now. You know what I mean? Let's calm down. Let's keep it in perspective. Let's not get carried away, folks. But it is what it is. He's trying to make a fight bigger than it really was, or just, climb the totem pole. I'm not, I can't sit there and rip him too much, but, he did quit. And if you're going to talk all that smack, man, you better not quit. You better not quit like that. And not even, like I said, I don't sit there and make a huge deal about this stuff. That's just not me, because a lot of people will, from afar will talk tough, the keyboard warriors and all that. But I am going to giggle a little bit, though, right? I mean, it's really hard not to giggle when somebody's talking some major stuff. And even after, he had a positive attitude, which that's cool. There's no point in being like a sore loser if you got beat the way he got beat. It's different. Complaining and stuff. Um, if you have something to complain about, you know what I mean, obviously. But I don't know. Even after the fight, it was like, dude, I mean, wow, do you really care about this? It seems like you're already over it, but that's good that you're over it, But at the same time, like, don't you care a little bit more than what you're leading on to? And that's probably what it is, man. You know what I mean? He probably doesn't want to talk about it. He's probably just like, no, I'm already moved on, man. I'm already past that. I'm already moved on, and I'm past that, and that type of stuff. So, it is what it is. Josh Taylor, though, very good win. He moves to 10-0 with 8 KOs, 140. Be interesting to see him, climb up the ranks. That's for damn sure. He's a pretty interesting fighter. I thought he put on a pretty good performance in my eyes. So that about does it for recap. Usually the recap segment's a lot longer, but let's be honest. Like I said, I mentioned a big upset, and then I broke down one fight, and that's about all I need to talk about. We're going to get into a little bit of news out there, whether it's Mayweather and the tax man, whether it's Mayweather and McGregor, the presser tour, right? Which has been entertaining. And hey, this is the time to watch the stuff. You know what I mean? This is the time to actually pay attention and be like, wow, this is fun. This is entertaining, because the fight may not be that entertaining. You never know, though. You never know. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Manny Pacquiao. We're going to talk about a variety of stuff. Well, let's start with Pacquiao first real quick, because then we can kind of combination up, some of the other stuff, because the Mayweather stuff is kind of a combo of things anyway, right? So, the camps have had a lot to say as far as Pacquiao camp against Bob Arum. And that's not just Freddie Roach or Manny. It's people within the camp. Some people you don't totally know their names. Some people you know. We did hear that he said they basically that Arum was against them, and just because he didn't speak out against his fighter and say that he got robbed. And I've even heard Bob saying that, Pacquiao passed the torch to Joe Horn, or Jeff Horn. God, how many times have we said Joe Horn over the time period about this fight? So Freddie Roach the other day, in front of some cameras and in an interview, he basically said, I haven't been paid yet. I've tried to contact Manny Pacquiao to no avail. I'm just trying to say what's up to him, see how he's feeling, and I haven't heard from him. But one thing that's kind of interesting, he said, was, I haven't been paid, which is like, huh, okay, that's weird, So then Pacquiao came out and said, well, I hear you, Freddie. But the Pacquiao side anyway. I think Manny Pacquiao actually tweeted this. I'm not sure. But either way, word got out. Manny's saying, I hear you, dude, but I haven't been paid either. So here we are 11 days after the fight, and Manny Pacquiao hasn't been paid yet? Could that be a thing? Could there be just some sort of sorry about that. Didn't mean to cough in the mic. I thought I was muting it and I hit the wrong button. Could there be a reason for this? Could there be that this is actually how it was going to play out and he was going to get his check a little later? I have no clue. But you figure the upfront guaranteed money, since it wasn't, dependent on, his money wasn't dependent on a pay-per-view per se, right? Sure, maybe I'm not saying there wasn't pay-per-view someplace of this fight. Probably in Australia it was. I've always heard that Australia, basically everything is damn near every boxing event's pay-per-view. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard from writers and fans in Australia. And if anyone is listening from Australia to this archive or live or whatever, let me know if that's still the case. If pretty much everything due to boxing oriented, any event or fight, most of it's pay-per-view. I wonder if that's still a thing. I hope not, just because that sucks. But yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. So that's kind of a weird, I don't know. I will say this. Bob has been kind of a little more quiet than I would have expected in a fight that Manny won. But I don't know. Maybe he's playing the side of, well, playing both sides. Maybe he's like, well, hang on. I'm not going to sit there and I'm still trying to get money from Australia in their Department of Tourism. I'm not going to sit there and rip apart the whole place, and the commission and all that, and sit there and do what he normally would do would just, would be pretty funny usually. He's very entertaining in this moment, where it'd be just, him just ripping into commissions and, this half-rate commission here in Australia. This is the JV team, you know what I mean? That's usually what he'd be doing in this situation, but he is partnered with Joe Horn, and like I said, he's probably trying to get that Australian money again, so maybe he doesn't want to speak out. And it was a tight fight. It wasn't 9-3 Horn, and I don't think it was 7-5 either, but it was a competitive fight, no doubt about it. But that's kind of an interesting thing. Why hasn't Manny been paid? I don't know. Could there already been an arrangement where he gets a check in a certain time frame? I have no clue at all. But I found that kind of interesting. Just more drama going on. But it does sound like Manny Pacquiao, he said family, God, all these people, even though I've heard his family Jinky doesn't want him to keep fighting. But he said, I'm going to keep fighting. So you can probably bet on a rematch. And although he'd probably want to be in Vegas, you can probably bet that it'll be back in Australia just because of that money. And they already said different parts of Australia, different states is what they call them. They're already like calling up saying, hey, we're ready to offer this kind of money. So I know there's a lot of rugby stadiums and football stadiums all around Australia, especially rugby, and even Australian style rugby, Australian football. So we'll keep you posted on that. But that is kind of weird. That is kind of weird, but you never know. It could be some sort of weird payment thing, and you really never know with Manny's stuff anyway, because Bob's always, for a while they used to hide it from taxes a little bit, and he wouldn't be paid his full amount as far as on the books in the States. There was also that whole trying to hide money from Golden Boy in a sense, so they could get their 5% and know exactly what their 5% was, you know what I mean, rather than a vague purse, and only get 5% what's been reported, yada, yada, yada. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll keep you posted on that. But on to this Mayweather stuff. Mayweather, McGregor, and Floyd Mayweather, right? So let's talk the tax stuff first, shall we? So the IRS is putting like a 20-something million, I think it was 22 million, that they're trying to put a lien out, to basically, because it even says in the quotes that he has all these assets that we could easily take and be good to go. But Floyd, it sounds like he was trying to either make installment payments or he was just trying to get it delayed, from his side. So supposedly Floyd Mayweather owes $22.5 million or something like that. And this is back in 2015. Now, some people think, well, this is Floyd's spending habits. See, he's running out of money. That's the only reason why this fight is even happening, which, whether it's true or not, either way, it plays fairly well into selling this current fight. That's for sure. Because if you're coming back for money, then your heart's not into it and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? And that could be real or that could be fake. I have no clue. So a lot of people think, well, I'm about to make all this money. Here you go. I'll just pay my taxes with this. And then later, obviously the money he's going to make this year, he's going to have to owe a bunch of tax money as well. And that year he made like $250-300 million. So he was going to owe some taxes. Now he's come back. So some people say he's out of money. He showed a check yesterday for $100 million. The upfront money, the guarantee money that he got for the Floyd Mayweather, the Mayweather Pacquiao that he hasn't even cashed yet. We know that they also explain how a lot of his money is liquidated. So a lot of it's invested in stuff. And there are usually penalties when you take it out of an investment. And so it's more, here's the thing. Is Floyd out of money? I really doubt it. I highly doubt it. And if you keep track of rich people and taxes, just look at the bankruptcy thing. I mean, well, shit, here's a perfect example. Our current president, which still kind of, blows my mind, no matter what your political spectrum is. It's just funny that it's not funny, but it is still kind of strange funny that Donald Trump is our president. But either way, that guy, 4 different times he's claimed bankruptcy, but yet he's worth $1 billion to $10 billion. It matters who you go by. You know what I mean? So the way rich people pay their taxes or don't pay their taxes, like you'll hear about, especially corporations, you'll hear about a corporation that you're like, so in this year they didn't even pay taxes. You're like, what? How did that work? Or you make a deal, you negotiate with the IRS, so you end up not paying as much as you would have in the beginning. Or sometimes you make a bunch of money and you invest a bunch of it, and you say, well, it kind of makes sense to not pay the tax right away. I've also heard about the fact that whether he made $200, $250, $300 million, whatever he made in 2015 based off that fight against Pacquiao, talking about Floyd, of course, it's doubtful that he picked up all that money in 2015. Now, you got the guaranteed check. Maybe the gate money's there. But there are such things like royalties in a sense, kind of like the music business, although I don't think it's as 18 months away from getting money. But you do get checks in the mail. So it's that same idea. You don't get all your money up front. I mean, sometimes you do, but, the combination of front and back money. And he's getting promoter money. So from that standpoint, he may have, he paid. This is what he said. He showed he did show, I can't say he showed evidence because I don't know if it's a fact or not, but allegedly he showed, if we're going to say, well, the IRS is fact because they showed us documents, then maybe we should say, well, this is probably fact because he showed us documents. But either way, he did pay $26 million worth of taxes in 2015. Now, what it could be is that 26 mil was for what he made then. Now, in 2016, he could have got the rest of that other money in the mail with the checks coming in off the pay-per-view and stuff like that. So he may have not made every single bit of that $200-300 million, whatever he made, in that actual calendar year, if you know what I mean. So maybe his side is like, well, hold on. We don't owe you more money that year because we didn't make it all in that year. So I have no clue. Maybe he is dead broke. Maybe he is, but based off what the IRS said, you can look at the tax lien. You could say, well, he has this amount of assets, and they said that they can, get those assets right away, but most of it's all liquid. So that tells me he has a lot of investment. Just the amount of money he put towards with Warren Buffett and certain things he's helped him with. That kind of proves that he's not broke, actually. that kind of proves that he's not broke, because they're talking about all this stuff that, you know, it's liquid. So we're not going to get it. We're not going to take that out just to pay this 26 mil or whatever. So it is what it is. You can believe that he's dead broke because he spends too much money, which he probably does. Well, he does. Either way, right? I'm not going to sit there and count people's money, but obviously he burns money, sometimes literally. But and obviously he gambles. I mean, he's a gambling degenerate. Period. Whether he wins, loses, whatever, he's a gambler. So he probably does spend too much money, but my guess is, based off the information that we know, just looking at what the IRS said, they actually prove that he has money. You know, it's just a lot of it is hidden away. So I don't look into this stuff that much, to be honest with you, because like I said, if you follow anything to do with how rich people pay their taxes, it's kind of like they just negotiate a deal and they end up paying less in taxes. I don't really know. I don't know what to think about this. I personally, he may be dead broke, but I highly doubt that. I think anybody that really thinks he's dead dirt broke, I just there's too much. It's just too much. I don't think he's dead broke. I think that's ridiculous. I think that he's had tax problems in the past before, and they got solved. You know what I mean? So I have no clue. Now, if in fact he is coming back just based off this stuff, that he needs money and he's coming back to fight, well, then yeah, that's not a good way to play it. You know what I mean? So it is kind of weird, though. Right before this press conference comes, all of a sudden some stuff from 2015 pops off. It's kind of like, well, that's kind of strange. It sounds like they're in a dispute. That's what it sounds like to me. But who knows? Who knows how that's going to work out? As far as, and by the way, CT, I'm not far away from coming to you here, man. As far as the presser goes, it was pretty funny. You could tell that, like I mentioned at the top of the show, you could kind of tell that the way they, each MMA, UFC, especially UFC and boxing, the way they do their press conferences, it is different. It definitely is different. You can tell. And it's kind of like you got to have, it's not so open where they're both answering questions at the same time, you know? I mean, there is that, but they're not necessarily up together at the same time. You know what I mean? And we know that. That's kind of how it's been. Although Top Rank lately has kind of started to do that a little bit more, which I think is pretty cool. And we'll probably see that fight week or something. You never know. But either way, basically, Conor went first. Conor got on the stage, and then Floyd, it kind of made him like wait, like he was in the locker room. And he was waiting for him in the ring to get cold. Like, hey, McGregor, you can sit out there for a while. Because McGregor's up there just having a fun time, kind of dancing, messing around with the crowd, getting the crowd pumped up. Dana White gets up there. He's supposed to say some stuff, and he ends up, you know, basically introducing Conor. Conor comes up there, and he says some pretty funny lines. But like I said, usually it's based off of a question, and then he goes from there. And whether he rips people or he's braggadocious or whatever, it's usually based off something coming his way and then him sending it back out. Whereas this is just him up there talking. It's his turn to talk. You better get it in while you can. And so I think when he says, oh, they caught me off guard, it's not that they caught him off guard. He just didn't know how these things work. You know, people, it was funny to watch on like Twitter and stuff when people are like, who are these guys? You know, it's like, dude, these are the MGM dudes. Like, these are all the executives. They're going to talk a little bit. They'll be done, dude. Just calm down, man. You know, but it was pretty funny to watch a lot of the UFC fans be like, who the hell is this dude on the stage, this old-ass man? Like, get the guys on the freaking mic, you know? So it was pretty funny. It was kind of funny. But So McGregor got his in, and he was pretty good. But Mayweather brought out the old pretty boy Floyd in the early Money Mayweather. He laid into him to the fact where he kind of put a punchline down and then walk it off. Almost like he kept just dropping the mic, he'd walk it off. And he'd say some stuff like he's a nice 7-figure, fighter, but I'm a 9-figure fighter. And he'd walk up and down. It was kind of funny. Some of it's cheesy, some of the stuff is cheesy, some of it's really funny. But it was kind of fun to see Floyd in that mode again. It's been a while. And you could kind of see when Conor was going in, and I guess he got him, now that Conor knows, how he's kind of got to get his in. I guess Conor talked about he couldn't read, and I guess he was saying some really funny stuff today. But anyway, it was good, and Floyd basically won it though, for sure. The stare-offs were pretty good. You could see McGregor was kind of trying to mess with him with his, kind of flaunting his style in front of him and that type of thing. He was kind of like just messing with them, basically. Just kind of messing with them. So it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny and entertaining. Like I said, this might be the most entertaining part of this whole thing. So you might as well watch it now, because it may not live up to much when they actually get in the ring. But they went to Toronto today. I guess that, there was so much interest. They went to, it looked like a big-ass outdoor pavilion is what it looked like to me. They had kind of a stage pavilion going on with a bunch of outdoor seats and whatnot. So I guess it was pretty funny today. What do they go to Brooklyn? They go to the Barclays. I think there was 11 or 12,000 people in Staples. Then they go to Brooklyn, the Barclays, and I think they end in London. And supposedly, I heard today that Floyd's got a little trick up his sleeve in London. So I don't know whether – heard something like he's going to bring in a girl into the situation. So who knows? We might get on that Broner Malignaggi stuff. I don't know, man. But either way, that's enough talk about that stuff, right? That's enough talk about that stuff. We don't need to go any further in to any McGregor Mayweather stuff. As far as, I'm going to let people give their take, but me, I'm not gonna talk too much more about it. Now, as far as breaking down these fights in CT, I'm going to go to you in just a second here. I really like the triple headers from Fox in HBO this weekend. And it looks like, remember how that Showtime, what was it, a quadruple header, led to the Terrence Crawford fight, and they weren't on at the same time? Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case, because FS1 does have it does have shoot. All right, there we go. I thought there was something up at the switchboard. It just froze up for a second, but we're good. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I like them, and I think that the way it's gonna run, it's gonna be a little bit more smoother, to where it does kind of suck that Joe Smith Jr. Sullivan Barrera fight is the first fight on that triple header, because that could be the mix-up. If Figueroa and Guerrero is actually a really fun fight in the ring, I mean, it's okay with me. I just watch everything on DVR. But for those watching live, that could be an issue. But it will be, I mean, it starts at 8 on the East, so 7 my time Central, the Fox card, and that's a triple header. So it's 9:30, maybe 10, but maybe not. It matters how the fights go, obviously. It could be a little shorter too. But it shouldn't be going head-to-head much. Now, FS1, like I said, has a little bit smaller of a card. That's something that I'm just going to DVR and watch later anyway. So it's not exactly how the Showtime card was done and then HBO kicked in, but it's going to be a little smoother. So it's not, they're not going head-to-head per se, is what I'm trying to say. long story short, right? And like I mentioned, Joe Smith Jr. and Sullivan Barrera, I really like this fight. I'm digging this fight. I think it's the hardest one to call. I think you could definitely make a case for both guys. You got a guy in Barrera, like I mentioned, he bounced back nicely from that loss to Andre Ward. And I mean, just saying it is not a big deal, right? I mean, it's a loss to Andre Ward. And he didn't look stupid. He did get knocked down. It's kind of flash knockdown, though. But he's built himself back, since then. And he got a big win over a guy that in Shabransky that a lot of people thought he was going to get knocked out on. And Shabransky was going to be the biggest, the next biggest thing coming from Eastern Europe. That didn't quite work out, and Barrera stopped him. But he did get dropped in that. In fact, he's been knocked down twice in recent time. Something to keep an eye on going against Joe Smith Jr., a power puncher, right? So Barrera's got a good jab. He likes to land the right hand behind it. Got good hand speed. Pretty good power, we're finding out. He also likes to throw the left hook to the body in the head. He can box somewhat, but he also likes to go on the attack as well. We saw that against Shabransky. And we've seen that with other fights too. He does have holes in his defense, like I mentioned. He just got knocked down a couple of times in the last year or so. And he has a habit of reaching with his shots at times. And that could get him in trouble against a guy that has some real power in Joe Smith Jr. He does have defensive problems as well, Joe Smith Jr., and that's what I think makes it even more of a fun fight. But it seems like he can stand up to shots pretty well. That shot that Fonfara hit him with early in the fight, it looked, man, this dude's in trouble, but he still was there enough to time him. Now, you could say, well, Fonfara was just coming in wide open. That's not a big deal. But he had his head about him. He still had his mental game about him enough to land that big shot. So, speaking of hooks, with both hands, hooks to the body for Joe Smith. The left hook to the head is another one he likes. And the overhand right. It could be times where it could get ugly in the in the pocket on the inside, but it also could be just some really good two-way action. Neither of these guys seem like they take too much of a back step. Like I said, I could see Barrera kind of shuffling his feet, using a little bit of lateral movement, more like probably calmly, subtly moving, like circling, instead of on the move running. But he can move. He can move. It's just not all about attacking with him. He can move. He's probably got the better jab, Barrera. But yeah, this one's a tough one to call for me. This one's definitely a tough one to call. And I'm going to do my predictions a little bit later. By the way, you can call 646-381-4990. That's 646-381-4990. We're about an hour into the show, just short of an hour. We got another hour plus of the live stream. And then the last hour of the show, maybe less, whatever. That'll be something you have to call in for. 646-381-4990. And remember, you can always, it's not just blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio, where you can find the show at archives there. It obviously streams live, which it's doing right now. But you can also check us out on Apple Podcasts, which is, the old iTunes, Player FM, Stitcher, TuneIn. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, there's a pretty damn good chance that the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast is there. I'd like to thank everybody for checking out the other show that we do as well. I forgot to mention this. We did an NBA free agency show not long ago, last Saturday. Did really well. Like to appreciate that in the draft and the finals and just, that other show that we do, the ball show. We really call it the college ball show. It'll be back in late August for college football. Then when that's done, we go to college basketball. When that's done, we go to the NBA playoffs. When that's done, we go to the draft and what we just did our last show, the free agency. A whole lot of movement there. But anyway, let's get back into this. Actually, I'll just pick mine right off the bat here. I have Sullivan Barrera finding a way to have a little bit different game plan of subtle movement and attack mode. I think his jab's a little cleaner, and I think he'll score enough points to get the job done, but this is a pick'em fight for me. This is a pick'em fight for me right here. Joe Smith Jr., like I said, he can stand up to shots and he can deliver them. And his confidence right now is at an all-time high, obviously, right? I mean, look at his last two fights. He's been a huge underdog in both and knocked out both dudes, knocked Fonfara out in the first round after getting hurt, and then knocking the old man, B-Hop, the ex-executioner, out of the ring. Like, out of the ring. You know, it wasn't just a push and a shove. He knocked him out of that freaking ring. So, I don't know. I think that's pretty damn interesting. That's pretty damn interesting to me. I really like that fight. I'm barely going Barrera by a hair, but I really it's a flip of the coin. I literally just decided right now. I've been thinking about it, been watching a little tape, but I literally just decided right now who I got winning. And I'm not confident. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it, to be honest with you. I'm kind of lost when it comes to that right now. I am going to be doing, we're live on YouTube right now. I'm going to actually stop that stream. If you're listening live, you can either call 646-381-4990, or you can follow that link. You know, hit that link in the not the comments, but the description box. There we go, in the description box. So, or maybe you're listening to an archive in a couple of days right now as we speak in the future. If you want to listen to the whole podcast, just go to the link, follow it, check it out anytime. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, though, on that side of things. So I